So, Sheryl, what's the answer to how's the market?
I don't know, Margo. September's been a little bit interesting. I felt like things slowed down a little in September. So what do you think the numbers say?
They slight slowdown, but I don't see a huge slowdown. And we have to consider we're going into the winter. So
I just feel like that started earlier for some reason. And then I do feel like a lot of people were waiting to hear what the Fed was going to do. So I think after the Fed announced the rate cut, people jumped back in. I heard last week that there's a local lender who had an FHA rate of 5.25.
That's
good. If we can stay there, I think people will start buying again. But I think after the Feds announced the rate cut, the phones have picked up some. I've got calls, and I had one of my lower price listings went under contract last week that's been sitting for a while. So I think people in those lower price ranges, like we talked about last month, who have just been hurt by affordability, I think maybe they're coming back into the market. Do you think?
Yeah, we really need to see homes more around that 300 and maybe down to 250 if that would ever happen again.
And this is, I think what we talked about before is those are the people that were hurt most by the high interest rates because not only were the prices way up here, then the rate shot up and that just made their payments super high for those people.
Just wasn't affordable.
Yeah, so if we could get back into the fives, I think a lot of those people would be able to afford something again. They'd feel better about buying because even though they know they can refinance, if you can't afford your monthly payment, doesn't matter what you can refinance to, you've got to be able to afford that initial monthly payment. And so I think those people have just been waiting. So maybe they're going to jump back into the buyer pool.
Yeah, it might take a little bit longer, I think, because being an election year.
A little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah, and being now hit with flooding and hurricanes, time after time.
Yeah, and that's a good point. What are you hearing about that? Do you think that's going to bring some people over to our area?
I think so eventually, but those people would need to sell their homes to get here, which I don't know how all this is going to pan out for them.
How long it's going to take.
Yeah, because the first question I'm being asked is, does it flood there?
Yeah.
I've heard that question maybe once before.
Well, I had some people from Louisiana that I met back after the major floods in Louisiana, and I don't know if that was like 2017, 2018, and they've been looking up in this area for a long time because they had such devastating flooding down in, and they were lucky. Their place didn't flood. Her mother's place did flood, but they were ready to leave, and so they've just been looking for the right property. But that's always their first question is this in a flood zone? Does it flood? And we don't think about that here because we're way up on the mountains. So if we get flooding, then everyone below us is in big trouble. Well, let's jump into the numbers here and see what we have. So the number of listings in the entire county is now at 301 at the end of September. And we had 106 new listings in the county. Now this is the county without Fairfield Glade. So that's about where we were in August, just up slightly from where we were in August. And then the number of sold listings in September is at 53. That's down just a little from a year ago. So a year ago we were at 70, and that's right at where we were in August. So not a lot of change there at all, really. I'm not noticing much change. The one thing that I did notice in August is the drop in the sold to list ratio. Did you notice the drop in the sold to list ratio, which means that people are getting a little bit more, buyers are getting a little bit more discount off the listing price?
Yeah, looks like the listing price and then the selling price will be about 10% different.
And that could maybe account for some of this slowdown that I've talked about with just less buyer demand. They're seeing less showings and maybe are feeling like they need to just take the first offer they get, and those offers are coming in a little bit lower. So
yeah, and I think too the timing of the year, people want to move for the holidays.
They want to go ahead and get this sold.
Yes, get it done.
Yeah,
get it over with.
Yeah, so maybe that is where that came from. The median days on the market's 42. That's not changed a lot. The absorption rate is still up just a little bit from last year and up just slightly from August. So 5.74 absorption rate, that means 5.74 months worth of inventory on the market. And that's more of a normal market. So I really feel
very much,
and that's
kind of
good. We need that
medium.
stabilization in the market. And
We
I
do.
think
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
We're recovering from the COVID years and the crazy buying frenzy.
To have a little bit of inventory, not too much inventory, just the right amount of inventory. And then the median sales price is $305,000, which is still up from last year's $283,000. And then from August, the sold price it's still up just a little bit from August, right? The median sold price
Yeah,
is
I've
up
got
just a little bit.
sold price at 305.
So, all in all, I think that's just stable for the county. And then let's look at Fairfield Glade and see how Fairfield Glade looks. So the number of listings in Fairfield actually dropped just a little bit from August. So the active listings in Fairfield Glade at the end of September was 129, and that's up from 84 in September of 2023.
Seems like a lot of homes.
Seems
doesn't
like a lot of houses, but it really is still kind of low. And then in Fairfield, the number of new listings in September was 35. So several listings that came on the market, and the number of sold listings in Fairfield were 26. So we actually had a few more listings than closed homes in Fairfield in September.
Now, what I found interesting is that last month, the median sale price was $418.
And it's down to $375.
Yeah, maybe that's just a few lower priced or older homes. There's smaller homes that sold. Definitely not the new build homes. Maybe there aren't as many new build homes.
And it could have been a few condos or townhouses because those are the lower priced ones.
I did see several of those on.
Yeah,
last
so maybe for some reason there were just more condos that sold last month.
Yeah, there were
Still up quite a bit from last year. It's still up almost 20% from last year.
Yeah,
So
that's big growth.
yeah, and the absorption rate is 4.98, so just under 5 months worth of inventory in Fairfield Glade. So lower than the rest of the county, but much higher than it has been.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's at the highest in the county. But if it is, they have more homes there.
More inventory there. And that's true because it's just a more condensed, more populated area. So it would make sense that there are more homes on the market.
We should figure out the percentage of population for Fairfield for the whole county.
Well, I know that Fairfield is getting close to 10,000 people. 9,500 or so, I think, is the official population count in Fairfield.
Wow.
And in the county, it's about 65,000. But the interesting thing is Fairfield is going to be larger population-wise than the city of Crossville very soon because the city of Crossville population's about 13,000.
Wow.
So we have approaching 10,000, and I don't know the exact numbers, but approaching 10,000, I think, in Fairfield Glade and about 13,000 in the city. So that's an interesting
It's
statistic.
a second city in this
Yeah.
in the county.
Yeah. So what about Lake Tansi? What are you seeing out in Lake Tansi? That's your
Lake
territory.
Tansi's pretty much stayed about the same. Absorption rate has gone down a little bit. It's down almost 3% to 4 months of inventory.
So it's still the lowest in the county. The absorption rate is the lowest in the county.
Yeah.
Only 37 active listings out there right now.
And it's compared to Fairfield Glade, it's a smaller market.
Oh, absolutely.
It's at least half the size.
Absolutely.
Median sale price has come down a little bit. Over median sale price has actually gone up. It looks like a little bit over last year, up to $315.
Right. Last year was $271, $250, and it's up to $315 this year. So across the board, everything has gone up a little bit.
It has. It still looks to me to be the most affordable.
I agree.
In the county, there are more of that $300,000 to $350,000 homes out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And like we said last month, there are more starter homes in Lake Tansi, I think. So you can buy a newer, smaller starter home in Lake Tansi for around $300,000, and you just can't find that anywhere else. Builders aren't.
No, and they are building a lot of homes out there. A few just came on the market in that $339 price point, and they're building several more. So
well, and I listed a year-old home, about 15 months old, And I think it's right at 1,200 square feet with the garage. A nice little starter home for $285 last week.
Wow.
So I think, that's a good deal for a new buyer, someone
It
who's
is.
down. This was a couple who bought it new, and they bought it to downsize, and now they're ready to move on into a condo or a townhome. And so it would be a great downsizing or starter home for someone. And that's a good price point, I think. We're not seeing a lot of those anywhere else.
No, that's a great price point.
Yeah.
Anything under 300.
But Tansi has some of those.
They do.
That's really the only place you can find some of those under 300 right now.
They are usually a smaller lot, smaller yard, some without a garage.
Yeah, but people aren't really wanting a big yard to take care of if they're in a starter home or if they're downsizing. So it's really a good combination, I think, for people.
I think you're right. I think people are starting to be more interested in the smaller home so they can go out and do more instead of being tied to that house payment.
Or lawn work. And so I think it just is kind of the perfect scenario for a lot of people.